The Cave of Sibyl, Marsala, Church of St. John al Boeo, archaeological area of Cape Boeo. The Cave of Sibyl is one of the most beautiful places in the Cape Boeo Park and is the oldest archaeological evidence of the spread of Christianity in the Roman city of Lilybaeum. It is characterized by the presence of a spring, which as part of the collective imagination is linked both to the myth of the Sibyl, a prophetess that made oracles from the depths of the rock, and the cult of John the Baptist, the saint to whom the church above the spring has been dedicated since the 12th century. The church has been mentioned in historical sources since the 12th century as a property owned by the Basilian religious order of Santa Maria della Grotta. The first building dates from the late 12th, early 13th century and was characterized by the apse and a single longitudinal aisle punctuated by 4 pillars, 2 on each side. At a later date, the sacred building was reinforced by a new perimeter wall, new paving and apse, and a better entrance to the crypt. An important construction phase dates from the second half of the 1500s. The church keeps its appearance of a longitudinal building with a single nave during this reconstruction phase, with a high altar adorned by the statue of St. John the Baptist, attributed to Antonello Gaggini. A few glazed tiles produced by the workshops of Sciacca in the late 16th century can still be seen. The tiles were reused in the 17th century floor, along with hexagonal brick tiles, composed of trapezoid tiles of white, yellow, green and black, which were produced in Trapani. During this period, the building was expanded to the current limits, and the 2 symmetrical entrances to Hypogeum of the Cave of Sibyl were added. Visiting the cave. Scholars speculate that the grotto was originally a basement room of late imperial domus, i.e. specus aestivus, a cool, secluded place, which could have had the function of a spa room. The central space was not to be covered, so could communicate with the ground floor of the house above. The hypogean underground rooms of the Roman house were reused in Christian times, when the central area was covered by a pseudo-dome, surmounted by a rectangular opening. Due to the presence of the natural spring, it is believed to have been used by the first Christian community in Lilybeo for the baptism of converts. The cave's floor is 4.8 meters below current ground level and consists of 3 spaces. A center, circular in shape, one placed to the north and the other to the west. In the Roman era, at the beginning of the 2nd century AD to the end of the 3rd century AD, the imperial central room of the cave was decorated with wall paintings and paved with mosaics depicting fish. The presence of rich groundwater emerging from the square shaft located in the center of the floor, which emerges due to capillary rise and tidal influence and thus periodically overflows, has resulted in the deterioration of the mosaics and the loss of much of the original decorative coverings. In the northern apse-shaped compartment used for the liturgical function of the crypt, there is an altar stone with a relief, probably by the Gaggini school of the 16th century, depicting John the Baptist, bearing in his arms the Agnus Dei. Just behind the altar, in a small cavity at floor level, there's a channel where the source that feeds the main basin flows. Part of the original late 4th and early 5th century AD white with finial raised decorative mosaic floor is still evident. The west room is irregular in shape and was probably in part derived from a well, whose cut is still partially visible on one of the walls. Modern sources interpreted this as a tomb or the bed of the mythical Sibyl. The compartment was entirely covered with wall paintings, which is still partly visible thanks to watercolor reconstruction commissioned by Antonino Salinas in the late 19th century. In the lower sections there are squares of fake marble and mirrors, and squares with symbolic motifs are still recognizable on the central wall, whilst the upper right parts of the apse are bordered by a ribbon of stylized flowers. The top half of the central wall contains a red hieratic shell flanked by two vases filled with still visible fruit. On the lower half of the wall, 4 doves surround a central motif, its decoration unfortunately lost, and on the right side wall, 2 large goldfish stand out. These motifs are used extensively in funerary paintings and early Christian mosaic cycles of the 4th century. Entrance to the cave today. Today the south entrance is the only viable stairwell, whilst only an old ramp remains of the closed east entrance. On the wall above this old entrance there is a plaque showing a heraldic cross which dates from the 4th or 5th century.